No, I really appreciate your time coming in.
Yeah.
Because I know you have a lot going on right now.
There's a lot happening right now.
Yeah. What's been going on?
Well,
I know you have a podcast.
We just whenever this comes out, we have just recovered from the power outage that hit Lexington. And
so how did that affect you here?
So we have 4 buildings or 4 facilities that we manage in the Crank and Boom empire. We have our production facility, 2 Crank and Booms, and Bobby Cones, our soft serve shop. And the power outage affected just Clay's Mill store, which happens to be the store that has the most inventory.
Oh, geez. So was it insulated okay, or did you have?
It was one of those things. So we've had power outages before or equipment failures before. Ironically, our warehouse, our headquarters, which is our 6,000 square foot manufacturing facility, had just had a catastrophic power outage 2 weeks before the Clay's Mill outage happened.
So you're built for that now.
two once in a millennia events happened within 2 weeks of each other.
So what happened 2 weeks before?
Lightning struck building.
Wow.
And melted part of the panel box. So we're grateful that it didn't burn the building down, which would have been very, very bad. But it took out our giant freezer, which of course has all our ice cream inventory, and then our giant cooler, which has the ingredients that go into said inventory, and then our kitchen that makes said inventory.
Jeez.
So but of course the heat in the lower bay bathroom was fine, but
the bathroom would be
the bathroom was nice and cozy and well lit, but the power to the 3 main things that actually need power for us to function were out.
Yeah. So did you have to replace any of those components, like a new freezer or anything?
No. Thankfully, we all get on site, we do triage mode, and we're calling all these places trying to find a reefer truck or some sort of something else, because the electrician said, well, you've melted the panel box. It's going to take 45 days until we get a new panel box.
Jeez.
Because of supply chain. Yay, supply chain. So, well, that's not good. We need a solution. And we couldn't get any. This happened at 3:00 in the afternoon on a Thursday, and people are going home. There's just not a lot of options, not a lot of people answering phones. So we called around to every truck rental place looking for a reefer truck.
And a reefer truck is the one with the
freezer, freezer truck, basically a giant freezer on wheels. And we were able to secure a reefer truck out of Cincinnati to come the next day on Friday. And then we were also able to secure just basically a cooler box that is a freezer that showed up on a tow truck and got, hauled into our facility. Yeah. So that thankfully was the next day, which was a freaking miracle because, we have we have bunkers of dry ice, which we're able to keep the product cold overnight. And we put we have monitoring systems so we can keep the temperature where it needs to be to keep the quality. But, we only have so much dry ice, and that is not really a great system over many days, which is what happened at Clay's Mill. We tried to put dry ice on product. We didn't know when the power was going to come back. We were able to save our scooping tubs, but we weren't able to save all of the pints. So we spent a day tossing many a pints, and it was very depressing.
I was going to say, I bet that hurts to watch the product just go in the trash.
Well, and it's what you sell. So you're literally throwing money into the trash. And then also the hard work that goes into all of those pints is down the trash. But, life happens, and I'm proud of our team for coming together during crisis time, but I think we're all a little worn out from crisis time.
Well, it sounds like it's been now, I guess, 4 weeks of a nightmare. So did you have anything in place before where you were proactive and had a plan for okay, if freezers go out, we have this checklist of things we got to do?
We have a pretty loose plan because, we have equipment failures. We are now tightening that plan after all of this has happened. But we usually try to have contingency plans, and, we've had enough experience going through these different issues that, here's what we do. Team jumps in, we take care of what we need to take care of, and, we try to get through it as best as we can. Yeah.
So how do you deal with team morale? Because of course they got to come in at inconvenient times.
Wow.
They're also passionate about the product and the service that you provide here, and they too are probably feeling like, oh my gosh, we found this in the garden.
We're doing
so
this
how do you
again.
keep people excited about, the future and not too glum about it?
No, well, I mean, I think that's part of building team culture, and especially our headquarters team, most of that team has been with me for probably 10 years or more. Mm-hmm. And we understand each other well. They know what the expectation is. We're a team. And when, the shit hits the fan, we all come in together to try to make the best of it. And, they were fantastic in just saying, like, if you need me, just call me. I'll come and help. So it's, many hands make light work.
Right.
And, crises happen. People know that, stuff happens. And I think one of the best things, and what nobody wants to deal with a crisis, but what makes me happy and warms my heart is seeing people rise to the occasion during a crisis, because people could be glum, they could be grouchy. I certainly was not in the best mood throwing away pints and pints of ice cream, but I had, other teammates who would come and give me a hug, like, it's going to be okay. Yeah, it's fine. Like, we got this.
So how do you manifest that culture? Because not everybody has that.
No. And, it's something that as we grow, it's harder to maintain, because you're not in the same space as every single person all the time. Mm-hmm. That crew that's been with me, they've been next to me, on the front line in all these different scenarios in different spaces in the Thai restaurant. Yeah. They've kind of seen it all. And so we've been through a lot together, and that's harder to pass on that culture when you've just met someone for a week. But hopefully, as we keep working and really build up our leadership, that culture gets passed along. And I was just, telling other Brandon in our meeting downstairs, what I feel like is when you have a good culture, is when a bad egg comes in and the culture spits that person back out, because they say, we don't act like that here. We don't do that here. And the system works. So it's not a me person. It's building the system in place so that if somebody who does not comes into the mix that doesn't match that culture or doesn't abide by the same values, then it's very easy to tell that they don't necessarily belong here.
So what have you done to lay that groundwork with that original crew?
I think it's just literally working 14 hours a day together every day. And they understand where I'm coming from. They've seen me work. They understand my expectations. I think that's the big thing. Working in the restaurant, you're there from open to close. And so there are questions on how something should be done. I'm there all the time to answer those questions. And the expectation is very clear. Like, we didn't have to have communication plans when we were just our little restaurant, because we're just there all together. Yeah. So if there's an issue, we just deal with it then. But I think it's harder as you have a larger team being able to pass on those same expectations. So it's a work in progress. We try in training to convey what the values are, what the expectations are. If something comes up that doesn't match that, we try to address it as quickly as possible so they understand, like, we don't do that here, or, you're new. Maybe you don't know that this is not something that we do, but it's an ever evolving process.
Yeah. So how do you communicate your expectations to employees? And
I think for us, it is, building our leadership team around us. And that's something, as I'm trying to kind of evolve out of operations and do more marketing, podcasts, community engagement type stuff that I really, really enjoy doing. I also love operations, but it's also, I feel like, time for me to evolve into the next stage of my role. And so right now what we're doing is foundation building with what does that look like with me out of operations and handing that responsibility over to my husband, Mike, who has mostly done financial stuff, has been on the backside of everything we do, and him taking over those operation type tasks and duties. So
what's that been like?
It's been great.
Teaching your husband how to do the job, and if there's something that he's not doing, how do you communicate it?
Yeah, honestly, it's him teaching me how to let go has been the hardest part of the process.
Let go
because of everything. So I have been so deeply involved in all different components of what we do, at least on the shop operation side, that something pops up and someone's used to coming to me for it. he says, which is true, I love being the fire brigade. So if someone's got a problem, I'm going to go in and try to fix it, because I'm just a fixer by nature. If you know me personally like that, you'll just know that. I want to go fix stuff. I want to be the solution. And he has had to train me on how to divert. It's like, do you need to be doing that? Maybe not.
Yeah. Where's that come from for you? Like, where's that fixer kind of personality come from?
I think it is just, we've been so deeply, we built this business and we know every aspect of it. Yeah. And even now as we grow, there are aspects of the business that I have no idea how it runs, because I just feel like it would be impossible to learn everything now. We've gotten to that stage. But, for the most part, I have a fairly decent knowledge of different pieces of the business. And of course have the just time, been around a long time. So I know and have some experience in these different functions that, someone who's newer might not have, but it definitely, it's been a process, but it's been great. Cause then he has to train me to say, well, why don't you not deal with that? And I will deal with that. And I'm like, yes.
So what was like the signal that you should hand off operations?
Well, we've actually been talking about it for, I don't know, 2 some years, getting me out of
you and Mike.
Yeah. Okay. And just our team in general. And I think, watch light green. Sorry, husband. Just trying to, for me, we always try to get everyone that works on our team in their sweet spot. Mm-hmm. And it's been determined.
Unintended, I think.
Yeah. Because you don't want someone doing something that they hate. There's always parts of the job that maybe are not the most fun. But if you overall are doing something that's like in your sweet spot and you love doing that, we keep our creative people doing creative things, and we try not to bog them down with things that are logistics. Or, like me, I'm a creative person, and I also want your sweatshirt.
Oh yeah.
Wherever you got that, I would like one.
I just had it custom made.
Okay. I need one of those.
I can get one for you.
Okay. I'm a creative person. I if you have me doing the same thing over and over and over, which is kind of like what operations is, I'm going to get worn out and burnt out. And I won't want to do it. And I won't be as good at it if it's not my sweet spot. So it was determined pretty, during all this process, during COVID and everything, we just do what we can to keep the business alive. But now that we're coming out of that, and also life is short. I don't want to spend time doing something I don't enjoy. And I don't have that expectation of anybody else as well. Mm-hmm. There's always going to be parts of the job that aren't as fun as other parts. But if we can get you and understand what it is your motivation, what you're excited about, then let's put you in that spot.
Yeah.
And, support you the best we can so that you can shine at your job.
Totally makes sense. Yeah. So why the decision to go with Mike and not hire somebody else or elevate somebody that's been with you or something else?
Well, I think it's important. We're owner operators. And so we haven't quite gotten to the stage where we can go off on a tropical island and just have someone else, take care of it. And I think we just care so deeply about it. We as an ownership team just still want to be involved in that aspect. And honestly, he said he's super jazzed about being in operations, which I was like,
good,
praise for that.
If he wasn't, then that would be a problem, right?
Right. So, he has handed off a lot of his financial tasks, and we've outsourced that so that he can have space to do operations, which, he's excited about and is really good at. And I think will be great for the business and getting me out and getting me to do this kind of stuff, which is, marketing, media and storytelling and community engagement. I love and live for that. And so I love the evolution of where it's all going.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So where's stop number 2 on the press tour right now? You're just on KET.
That's right.
Let's get into the podcast a little bit and kind of understand, maybe why did you think a podcast was important? I know podcasts, they were around in the early 2000s.
Right.
Then they went away. Then they came back in a big way.
Right.
So what do you anticipate it doing for you in the business?
Yeah. So, I was inspired by an owner of a company called Simplified, Emily Lay, who is my hero and now real life friend, which I'm excited about. But she owns this company, Simplified. They create planners and And their goal as a company is to simplify people's lives, specifically women. And she started a podcast in the middle of COVID, and I started listening to her podcast, and it just gave me such a more in-depth understanding about what their company does. I feel like our companies are very similar because they sell planners and paper products, but ultimately they're there to enrich the lives of women. And I feel like for us, yes, we sell ice cream, but we're really in the business of memories and creating joy and laughter and compassion. And, our mission statement, create joy, ignite laughter, inspire compassion. It doesn't say sell ice cream, but we have to sell ice cream to be able to do the mission. Sure. So I felt like it was a great way for me to get to know her as an owner and to get to know the business. And I'm a natural storyteller, and I just love, when I chat with our team, I love telling them stories about, like the grouchy old guy, like, remember way back when we did this, and you don't understand how good it got, just like the grouchy guy on like, get off my lawn. I love telling stories, and I love, I've been an entrepreneur for almost 20 years now, and felt like a nice time to find a platform for those stories that they could live. And I felt like I just had so much to share, like it was oozing out of me and it needed to go somewhere. Yeah. And I felt like the podcast would be a really great platform for that, to help build a community of people who are interested in entrepreneurship. And that's what the podcast is about: small business, entrepreneurship, and really, just components of my life that I want to share. Yeah. Because I don't think what I feel like in the business world is like business, and I really want to change and kind of debunk that it has to be like straight business all the time, because my life is my business, my kids, my life is it all blurs together. There's not like business Tao and like home Tao, like it's all just this one big encompassing thing. Well,
you said so. I'm trying to remember a conversation we had before where you said like you and Mike, you're like, you go home and you talk business, and sort of is interwoven into the fabric of the family. There's no balance. And I don't really, I feel like it's a fallacy to think that you get to some magical place where you're like, I feel balanced, because it's just life. Some days are going to be more geared for me, more geared towards my family life. That's a huge component of me. And then other times it's going to be very focused on the business side, which is also a huge component of me. And it should just all be presented as one thing. And I think, especially as a woman business owner, I think there is this expectation that, you shut this home life stuff at home, and then you have to show up to work as like professional person. Mm-hmm. And I think where the world is going, like, we need to just get rid of that. Like, can we just all talk about life and talk about what it's like to live real life? Like if I'm going to go over there and shut my camera, like, this real life, we're just presenting it. Yeah. It doesn't have to be edited in that way. Yeah. I mean, we see that everywhere around us. We see it in the way that social media is presenting itself today, and being a lot more raw and authentic. Mm-hmm. Cell phones are the primary way of creating content, and not fancy cameras in the editing and everything. Yeah. And we just see that. We see it in our politics. We see it in how religion shifts. We see it everywhere. So it's kind of interesting how business tends to push back on those evolutions. Right. And then we got to drag it along with it. And I mean, that's why we started our own business, was I really felt like business didn't have to be like business. I show up like this a lot. And my mom's like, you should think about dressing like a business owner and not like a business worker. Yeah. But I'm like, this is just me. I'm just showing up as I am. Yeah. And this is what works for me. And I don't put other people's expectations into my space. Yeah. I find that conversation really fascinating. The whole, like, what do we consider professional? What's not professional? How much of yourself do you want to show up as versus how much of the game do you have to play? Right. And I think that's tricky. That's tricky, and especially certain workplaces, and which is why I created my own workplace, because I just want people to show up as they are and be able to celebrate who it is you are, and let us know who you are, so we can make the best of our time together. Yeah. How do you reflect that in the brand? Like when you were coming up with Crank and Boom and what it was going to look like, sound like, you know, the colors, all of that stuff. Like, how do you let that show up?
I think, you know, branding to me is so broad, and it's so much more than colors and logos. I feel like those are technical mechanisms that help you with branding. But I think what has made it easy on the branding side is that I show up in the brand as I am now. And so me, where I was 10 years ago is very different than I am now. Mm-hmm. And so our voice as a company and me as the kind of the face of the company evolves. But I feel like we always want to stay relevant, and we want to always have a voice in the community, whatever issues are popping up. I think it's important for us to be leaders in terms of inclusion and making everyone feel welcome. That's just, you know, personal philosophy, and that leads into the brand, and hopefully people in the community and other business leaders see what we're doing and see that you can have success while also caring about something that's beyond just, you know, the dollars that come in and the things that you're selling.
Yeah. I'm curious when. Hi, Jacob.
Hi, Jacob.
We've had a lot of dessert sort of places come and go. Mm-hmm. They were here before COVID, disappeared during, some started up during COVID, disappeared after. What is it about, you know, because you were talking about brand being like a technical sort of thing, but we know that brand is also reputation and the word of mouth and other things. What do you think that it is about Crank and Boom that's been so successful to be able to survive in a way that many others have not?
I think, you know, from a business standpoint, very flexible. And I think that's one of the benefits of being a small business. When you get larger, and we've seen this, you know, things that I could do in my own tiny little restaurant, I could do a lot faster than things that I can do now, where we have multiple locations and multiple people to communicate with. Mm-hmm. But even, you know, we're still small and we have this tight team. And I think one of many things that I think attribute to our success and our ability to stick around is the grit. I think just the desire to not go away. Yeah. So I think these crappy things happen, but we just deal with them and we move on and we try to learn from it and keep growing in that sense, just as us as leaders. And I think we genuinely have a team of just incredibly nice people. And I think that's something we look for when we're recruiting for our team. We just want to be around nice people. And I think that's something that's lacking in the world, like connection and just genuine kindness and, you know, joy. And I always hope that our place, whether it be for our team or for our community, that we're a soft place to land. So if you're, you know, sometimes folks don't know what they're doing with their life. So they come and work here to, you know, have a job and hang out with some fun people and get to serve ice cream. And then maybe it will help them figure out what it is their next step is. Yeah. And then, you know, for our community, I always hope that if you're having a bad day and you come here, that you feel better by the time you leave. And that's not just the act of eating ice cream, but because you've had an interaction with someone that showed some kindness to you. Or, you know, if you're having a great day, can you come and celebrate? Can we be the place where you come and celebrate things that are good that are happening in your life? So I'm hoping all of our places, like no matter how we show up, if it's online or on social media or here physically in a location, or, you know, if someday we're in Toronto, that you go there and you know that it is a place that you'll find nice people. Yeah. And I think that's the bone. I mean, that's the bones of like why we exist. And also the ice cream happens to be amazing, but I even feel like that's almost secondary to everything else around it. And there's such pride with our team who makes the product and everything they do. Like, we're always excited about new weird flavors we're doing, or, you know, just being able to show up and do those things. I think there you can feel that through the product and from start to finish. So I think those are some of the components, but we just love the community and we just love being here.
Well, and the community seems to really love you as well, so. You know? Yeah, I asked that question a lot because just like, I don't know if you see these posts on like TikTok and Reels or whatever, but in the social media landscape, you got social media people always trying to figure out, or creators, just like, what's like the perfect formula for me to grow and take off and for people to just love me, right?
Right.
And I think business owners do some of that in a similar way, in a different way.
Yeah.
Of like, what are all the things on the list of making a perfect brand and a wonderful,
Right.
And so much of that is tangible,
yeah.
Colors, location, things of that nature. But, and even, I mean, how many podcasts have been done to say like, well, yeah, take care of your team and its culture, right? And like that's almost a thing that you can check as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like the missing component really is product a lot of times, and the genuineness behind that. Yeah. Some of those things, like if you're just trying to be nice, but you're not actually nice, well, people sense it, right? If you're trying to build a great culture off the back of like trying to be something you aren't,
right,
you're going to end up hiring people that really aren't the best.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think when you're, if you're an operator, if you have your own business, if you're a leader in an organization, if you don't really believe what it is you're preaching, it will show up. Like I had a restaurant friend who was like, oh, I should have a local component of my menu. But he didn't, and I knew it, he didn't truly believe in like why you like do that. And, someone like Rita Michael like lives in that in her bones.
Right.
Like, she has a staff farmer, like she lives it in her bones. You can tell in how she presents it. So if you are a restaurateur who sees a trend and says, oh, well, I guess we should do that, you can't execute that because you don't believe that in your bones that that's why you should do it, because the numbers don't always make sense to do those kind of things.
Yeah.
And I think what we have always done is we're going to show up and do what we believe in and what we believe in deeply, because that's the only way I know how to execute something is, if there's something that is going on that I can't get behind, then we won't be behind it. It just
really
makes sense.
Checking your gut.
It is.
And your instinct and really
it's
doubling
intuition.
down on that.
Yeah. And I think if you don't have that piece, you can't pull it. You can't fake genuineness.
Yeah.
And I think, and I hope that people who know me in person, I'll say I'm the same person as I am, is how I show up on TV or on a podcast or whatnot. And so, I really just love being in the space. And I think the biggest thing is I love serving people. And I want to find other people who love to serve. That's one of the questions on our application to work here. Do you love serving people? Do you love, because it is an act of service. I mean, we're in the hospitality industry.
Yeah.
And if you don't love the act of serving someone else, you probably shouldn't be here, and you should find something else to do, because you're not going to be happy here.
Yeah.
So we find people who genuinely love this act and get a real high when there's like a line out the door and like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
This is crazy. And this is awesome. And, but you have to be built for that.
Yeah.
But, we're in the South. And so naturally hospitality is just part of our culture. And then Thai culture is deeply into hospitality. It's just a country full of nice people. Mm-hmm. And so I think the combo of that growing up here and then our Thai culture, and both my parents instilling a very deep, love of service, little things like, I cut up some extra apples, go take this over to our neighbor of the blue. And that's been ingrained in me since I was a little kid. And so I just try to think of other people and try to think how can I serve them to be a good boss, a good friend, good wife, a good mother, all those things.
No, that's great. Well, and, we've talked so much about those intangibles that you're talking about right now. My dad, who still lives in South Carolina with my mom, whenever they come up here to visit, we have to go to Crank and Boom because it's one of their must stops.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I think about that. It's like, okay, so what is it about Crank and Boom, for example, for my parents?
Yeah.
Because we have other places around,
obviously.
national
Lots
names, regional names,
so
whatever.
many places that you can get ice cream.
Yeah. So it's like, what is it? And it's like, well, for them, I know it's it's something local that they can't just get back home.
Yeah.
Or any feeling of it an equivalent.
Yeah.
Like you said, it doesn't feel, well, he didn't say this, but I inferred it. Like, it doesn't feel sterile.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like a job that you just show up to and you can sense that from the employees. And the biggest part is, does it taste good?
Yeah.
Did I enjoy the food part?
Right.
Because at the end of the day, we're all here to eat.
Yes.
You know,
very much.
So they work cohesively, and that's what it seems like for them is really the big draw, and why we're always here when they're here.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we opened this space, we're here at the Manchester location in the distillery district. One of our goals, Mike and I, when we opened this, and when there was nothing else really around us, we were just on the forefront of getting this place redeveloped as an area. But we said, what can we do here that would make it on the top 3 list for people who come in?
How do you make it a destination? How do you make it different than other places?
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the biggest things too, though, is like, again, it seems like a lot of people in the business content that I'm seeing in social media, and really any industry, is like, what is the perfect formula for pulling this off?
Yeah.
And that's why I try to ask that question a lot and try to identify any sort of like particular answer.
Yeah.
There's a lot of overlaps, of course.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to unlock, like, what really is it that sets, I mean, nobody's ever said luck. Yeah. I don't know if luck is a thing. Yeah. I don't know if that's part of anything. Do you have any sort of ideas on that?
I mean, I think you can kind of create your luck. I'm also, if we want to get real deep here, I'm a big believer in karma. Yep. And I feel like if you
That's why you have the wall down there, right?
Yeah.
Like the pay ahead.
Pay ahead, and you share a scoop. I truly believe in my deep heart that if I put out good things in the world, hopefully it will come in some sort of return, and not in maybe something tangible, but I feel like I've been very fortunate in life. Certainly things have happened, but there's something that always happens, and you just don't know what's going on in people's lives. Yeah. But I think part of what I'm hoping to achieve with the podcast too is really unveiling these things that it's harder to talk about in other spaces, but really being able to present us as we are, because we're not perfect. We have issues that we are dealing with on the back end, just like any other business. But seemingly to a lot of people, we've got it all together, and it's successful, and like, yay you, and that's wonderful. And we're still here. I mean, that's a huge thing to celebrate, is that we're still here, and this is our 10th year anniversry this year.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
okay,
10 years, awesome. 10 years, crank and boom.
Are you doing like a big shindig or something? I just use that word.
Yes, one of my things that I'm not very good at is celebrating ourselves, and so I've had multiple outside people say, like, you need to have a party. So I think we're going to try to have a party.
Is it going to be an ice cream party?
There will be ice cream involved in some way. But yeah, I don't know that there's a secret sauce. And I think, as a business owner, I feel like you just have to be you. And so what works for me might not translate to somebody else. And for me, from a personal standpoint, I'm at a phase in life where I'm just chasing happiness, and I'm just chasing joy in any way that I can. My dad has been battling stage 4 lung cancer, and that has been a huge component in what my life has looked like in the last 6 months. And, I can't not say that going through that doesn't shift your priorities a little bit. And I have found myself caring less about little things that I would have cared a lot about maybe 8 months ago. And, I kind of have the Elsa from Frozen, like, we're just gonna let it go. Yeah. Because it's impossible to try to be perfect and have everything just the way you would like it to be, because we have a team and it's humans, and they are not me, and I should not expect anyone to be me. Like, I'm me, I do my role, and can I support and build a system up where everybody can be them and succeed in whatever role they are playing. But
so what is something that you wish you did better, whether it's you or the company?
It's celebrate more. So I think the same way when issues come up, like the power outage, it's done. It's yesterday, we roll on. And so, when good things happen too, we're like, yay, for a moment, and then we roll on.
Yeah.
So I wish I was better at spending more space in that celebratory time. And I'm not as good at that. So
I
hoping
think
to
it's
get
actually
better.
maybe a good trait in some ways, and maybe always, because I feel like a lot of times a business will put on some celebratory thing for some mile marker, and it feels a little self-congratulatory in a way that's like just seeking PR.
Yeah.
Which I don't think there's anything wrong with doing PR, of course.
Right.
But I'm just such a big person with intent. Like, what was the real intent? You
Yeah.
know, like, was this really to celebrate as a team?
Yeah.
Was this to celebrate the community and the customers that have come here for 10 years?
Right.
That bring their parents here
We
every time they
exist-
visit?
Right.
Or
We exist
is it
because of
something
that.
else?
Yeah, and that's always a big thing for me too, because we do so much in the community, and it can feel performative at some points, but part of our mission statement is inspire compassion, and I feel like a part of that means when we do things in the community, we talk about it, because we want that to be what's normal for businesses.
Yeah.
And we can't write $1 million check to somebody, but we can do a special flavor that's celebrating the LGBTQ community, or just those little things that we do that go in line with our values, and finding ways to do it. And as we've gotten bigger and our platform has gotten bigger, it's become even more important for us to speak those things and share our values.
I was going to say, how do you navigate that? Because as you continue to expand, you represent, the brand has a lot of different thinkers, I'm sure, that work with you. Some that maybe don't align 100%, actually probably nobody 100% aligns with your thinking, right?
Sure.
So how is a business in 2023, which could be pretty interesting to operate as far as like figuring out what side of issues you're going to align with, how do you navigate that?
I think for us, it's we take certain stances on certain issues, and for me, it's what is being a good human? And to me, that is being welcoming, celebrating. I hate the word tolerate when it comes to diversity, because as someone who is part of multiple minority groups, like, I don't want to be tolerated.
Yeah.
I would like to be celebrated.
She's here in the room,
I was like, I guess we'll just tolerate her because she's different. No, we should celebrate our differences, and that, I feel like, as a team, like, that is our superpower, is the fact that we're all different, and that we are different heights, we are different bodies, we come from different places. Like, all of that is what we need to celebrate, and what our strong suit is, and being able to convey that, not because it's the hot topic of the year and that we're doing it because that's what businesses should do. We should do it because that's what good humans do. And honestly, if you're not doing it, you're going to be behind. And that's how I feel like that very deeply.
Yeah.
And when it comes to posting on social media, it honestly is my feelings. That's how we navigate it. And does that come with controversy sometimes? I mean, it does, but you're on social media. There's always going to be somebody who's trying to hate on you and say things, and you just kind of tune it out because you know what you believe in your core. And I think it is harder to navigate when there's access to so many voices to come and say things, whether it's in your store or on social media. But I think you just have to know who you are and know what you stand for and stand by it. And if haters come, haters come. And just ignore them. They and a lot of times, if you want to unfollow, then you have that right to go live in whatever space you want to live in. But this is our house, and this is how we operate.
And the haters are still welcome to come eat ice cream.
You can. Whatever. You have all the right to do whatever you want in your life.
That is one of the interesting things, and not to lean too far into it, but it is one of the interesting things of when there's an audience that's accepting. I think people at this point have figured out I'm a pretty left-leaning thinker. But I look at that sometimes and I feel like, how do we navigate that? and say we tolerate, or there's that word, we accept all, but then when somebody comes in and says something counter to how we believe, we often don't accept that. And that seems counterintuitive to acceptance, you know? So I'm curious what your thoughts are on how do we navigate that?
Right. Well,
you know?
And it's also like we're in the service industry. It's impossible to make everybody happy. And yes, at the same time, you know, we have certain beliefs, but you also don't want to make someone who doesn't believe in that feel like they are not welcome as well. So yeah, I think it's a tough thing to navigate sometimes, but I think if you show up as you are and people have the choice of whether they want to be in your space, in your community, in your store. I've, you know, had plenty of hate letters that have proclaimed that they will never step foot in our store ever again.
Based on what?
We had a Black Lives Matter sign outside our stores for a while, and that seemed to really torque off some folks, and they wrote a very strong worded letter about how they were never going to step foot, and they would spend their whole rest of their lives telling all their neighbors to never step foot. And I mean, that seems like a really big waste of energy, but I mean, you do you know? Yeah. But it's just, this is where we're at. This is what we want to talk about. And it's not going to always make everybody happy. And I'm okay with that.
So last thing I'll ask about is, what's the value of partnerships and associations with other brands and people? Because obviously Wiley came out and put the mural on the outside. You know, from people that you source products from, and the ingredients that show up in the food. What does that really do for you in those relationships and bringing their brands to you?
Well, I mean, it all kind of stemmed from just loving farmers. We, you know, were at the farmers market when we first started as just a little ice cream cart, but even our Thai restaurant, I really wanted to start working with local farms because I was very passionate about the food economy. You know, my family's from Thailand, and the little town that they're from, they have these shop houses, and behind the shop house is an open market. And every day you'd go, you'd buy something from the market, you would make your dinner. And so that connection to your food and where it comes from was really important to me. And I just love people, and I love Lexington, and I love Kentucky, and I wanted to just make us a stronger community, and this was our way of doing it in our little piece of the world. And it started out with finding a farm that would sell us some vegetables, and then it went to, you know, and now we have a grower, Van Meter Farms, out in Western Kentucky. They grow a crop just for us, for strawberries.
Oh, wow.
So we'll order anywhere from 3,000 to 6,000 pounds of strawberries for the entire year, and now that's a component of their business and their livelihood. And you know, what an honor that is, and a privilege to be able to have that impact on someone else that is just trying to make their own family business run and function. So building those connections and, you know, finding nonprofits to work with. I just got a text a second ago from Josh Nadzim. He just took some of our ice cream to the juvenile detention center. And so they're just these little things that are ways that we can help. You know, a lot of them don't get advertised on social, but we're just trying to be good humans, and we don't have $1 million to give, but we have ice cream, and we have people, and we have time, and we give what we can. And I think that's the biggest thing that I want to convey to other people that might say, well, I don't have $1 million to give anybody. It's like, there's always something that you can give, and maybe it's just you smiling at somebody. And what if every single person could give what they could? I mean, it would just be this big, like, kumbaya cyclical, like, circle of goodness being passed around. And so it's my kind of idyllic vision for the world. And as a business leader, I feel like, well, if we can show that in our business, that I feel like other people will get on board too.
That's fantastic.
So it's, you know, it's strategic in a way of just connecting with other people, but I just love being able to support a local artist. I love being able to, and you know, how blessed are we to have his art on our wall now. He's going to do the other side this summer.
Oh yeah, awesome.
So I'm real excited about that. So, you know, nonprofits, other, small food producers, just being able to talk to them about what's the process of packaging. That's what I really want to do with the podcast too, is what are those things that we did as small producers in the beginning? Like, let's talk about packaging, like nutritional facts, like what does that look like?
Yeah.
All sorts of different pieces of the industry that we've been a part of. I want to share, because it's not doing anything good just being in my head. So if we can put it somewhere out there that will help someone else feel less. That was the main goal of the podcast. I just want people to feel less alone, because it's a lonely journey being an entrepreneur. And so I just want to be like your buddy. Be like, it's okay. It's okay if you cry.
Well, that's great. I really do appreciate your time. And I know you have a hard stop that was like a few minutes ago.
That's okay.
So we should probably
we'll figure it out.
So what's the name of the podcast? When's it coming out?
Yep.
When can people expect to go and download it and check it out?
Yep. It's called the Crank and Boom Podcast with Toa Green. And it is coming out March 28th on a Tuesday. It'll come out weekly. And you can find it on all your regular podcast platforms. And the website will be crankandboompodcast.com. And you can find us at crankandboom.com. So we're easy to find.
That's awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Thanks, Brandon.